I presume that I'm starting.
Yep. Go ahead.
Because I was tucked away in my bed.
And I was too.
And I was like, I think I have to talk.
Then we gotta talk.
Then you gotta talk.
Can't sleep with this on your mind and your heart.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. So there's no really agenda. I don't know what she's gonna say. I don't even know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
This has been a 9-10 day overwhelming journey with responses and calls and opinions and criticisms. So
encouragements.
And encouragements.
Yeah.
And encouragements, yes.
Yeah, yes. A lot of encouragements. It's just sometimes the encouragement can get overshadowed because
the criticisms are very loud.
Yeah, and because we care about people.
We do.
We care about people, and when people are communicating that they're hurt or disappointed, even if it's 1 or 2 people for every 20 people that are encouraged and empowered, it's hard to not care about the 1 or 2 that are feeling the way they are. So one of the reasons that I wanted to get on camera and share this evening is because we've gone kind of back and forth a little bit, just kind of wrestling with the best ways to respond. Do we respond to individual messages, or do we create videos that are responses to a lot of messages, that are responses to themes? And so I felt compelled to do a video because one of the major reasons that we even started talking on video was because there have been so many conversations that have happened with 1 or 2 people or small groups of people, and those conversations then get translated in, with the interpretation of that small group. So instead of a message that we believe is in our hearts to share, or the Lord's given us to share, that's communicated directly from us to the masses, the message gets retranslated, and we all know what happens
when you play telephone.
Yeah, I mean, human nature, people have their own spin or perspective on what they heard, and then that gets reinterpreted. And so what I feel strongly about is, yes, I do believe there's going to be appropriate times to have a one-on-one conversation, but when we're addressing these bigger themes and bigger messages of what we're trying to communicate, I think the best way to do that is in a video. That way it's not a, one-off text or one-off phone conversation. It is the message, and however it is revealed to you and the timing that it is revealed to you is what should happen, and not a kind of a mess that ends up being created because it's been reinterpreted based on the lens of where you are in your journey, where you are in your walk, where you are in your perspective on racism in general. So we mentioned this briefly that, and feel free to jump in. We mentioned this briefly that divisiveness has been a word that's thrown out there. This is divisive. This is, chaotic, or this is causing more problems.
So you're saying that's like a theme?
That's been a theme.
That's been a theme.
Yes.
That's good, because I think that's part of the theme that I would probably want to have anything to respond to today would be that theme that's come up. Yep.
And it came up today. It's not the first time it's come up. It came up today. We were contacted by one of the pastors that there's this scattering effect that's happening, almost like creation of chaos. And what's interesting that came up today was that yesterday God gave me this picture of, Gary and I walking and almost like reliving the walk, and it was like I saw a different perspective on the walk. One of the things I think we've come back to often is like, we're so sorry. We did not realize that there would be trauma as a result of allowing, the pastors to come pray. We didn't know the history and what happened in Waco and with election. We didn't know any of those things prior to coming to Waco. We didn't know any of those things prior to the walk, and so we've taken the steps to say, like, we're sorry, we apologize that this happened and all of that. And, Gary's even talked about the weight of even the shame that he felt and carried. And so
since then, a lot has been released. I would even say 100% has been released. So I feel a lot lighter, and that I can move forward with the work that God has called me to do. So,
yeah, which is huge. But this picture that I got of like reliving this walk, it was like, okay, we're following the Lord out. We're following the Lord out there to do it. We follow him in the choices made, real impromptu. Follow him in inviting, pastors to come up and pray. And so I'm seeing this picture of like, okay, we didn't like walk away from where he was leading us, but what I saw was God was allowing us to lead all of the people of the city and all of the eyes of the city to a fault line in the ground. I am leading you here because I'm going to expose what's happening under the ground. I'm going to expose the faulty foundation when it comes to race relations.
She talks with her hands, so raise so you can see your illustration.
Sorry. I'm still leading you, and you're leading the people to this fault line. And it looks like, oh my gosh, you're about to lead these people to destruction. No. I'm leading them to a fault line because there's going to be an earthquake, and I'm going to expose what's underneath. And what I took away from that, and what I think is important to mention is, I've heard a lot mentioned about, man, there's been so much unity in the city and we've come together and we've come a long way. And I'm not taking that away from Waco in any way, but I believe that the problem is we want to build these beautiful buildings and beautiful structures on ground that there's stuff that hasn't been dealt with. And so the more we build on top of this, it's very, I don't know if the word is detrimental, problematic, because
detrimental.
Yeah, because we haven't dealt with the nasty that's underneath. And so in all confession, and this may go over some people's heads, some people may catch it. I shared with Gary that I have been raised in a very, generally a very white culture. And one thing that I've picked up as my own and not struggled with, but has been a challenging place even in our marriage, is I just want to make things good again. Like, we might have a disagreement. Okay, what do I have to do? I just need to apologize. Like, let's just get to where we reconcile. Let's just get to the reconciliation part. And I've always rushed to that since we've been together. And, we've gone round and round so many times because he's like, no, look, I don't want your apology. And I'm like, why do you not want my apology? That's not biblical. I don't understand. I'm saying I'm sorry.
It's the worst.
Let's just come together.
Let's
just come together.
No, there's no apology. And there's a big reason why I feel that way. I guess you're about to hit on it now.
Yeah, and if I don't, feel free. But to bring that around, like, there's almost like this culture of like, let's just get to the part where we come together. Like, let's just get to that, because the part in between, it feels horrible, and it's, and it feels like, oh, we gotta draw this out, and is it necessary to sit in the pain
and talk
and the discomfort?
about the discomfort.
Like,
yes.
Oh my goodness, why do we have to go through all that?
It's uncomfortable.
Where we know where we want to end up. We want to end up together.
So let's just kiss and make up. Let's
Yes.
just hug and come together.
And that is exactly what I believe is happening when it comes to race relations in this city.
And
Yes.
across the nation.
And across the nation.
But specifically in this city.
Yes, it's like unity, come together, and we're skipping the part where we deal with the hard stuff, the repair and addressing what's underneath and causing that fault line. Because then we keep building, and eventually this is not going to sustain this. Like, yes, God wants to create all of that. That's where we're going.
Unity.
And we want that too.
But not right now. I do not want unity right now.
You want to clarify that?
I want to clarify. I don't want unity right now. Because exactly what you're talking about.
Mm.
You want to build a bridge from here to here. Unity's over here. Hurt is over here. Or black people over here, white people over here, or racism is over here, and equality is over here, and we just want to do this. Let's just build a bridge. We're all bridge builders. No. So that is the end goal of wanting unity, but unless we deal with reconciling, unless we deal with repentance, unless we deal with an awareness of why we need to get to here, the journey is going to be for naught, because you're going to end up doing the same thing that caused the division in the first place. So I'm not calling for unity right now, because I think that is the end goal, but it's not the goal right now. I think it just goes to what you're talking about.
Yeah, because the goal is ultimately to be reconciled, but there's repair that has to happen before the reconciliation.
Yes.
I think that's what I want to clarify.
And unity.
That.
Yeah.
Yes. Reconciliation and unity is where we're going, but there's repairs that have to happen in order to get there.
I guess I see it in this way. Unity is here. This is the goal. Unity. Mm-hmm. All under one roof, all living together. But there's these steps of repentance or acknowledgement, repentance, repair. All of this stuff has to happen on the continuum, or on the bridge, so to speak, in order to get to the ultimate goal of unity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't feel like we clump reconciliation and unity all in one. I feel like that's on its own separate island by itself. But go ahead.
Yeah. And so I just, I just wanted to speak to that piece about causing scattering and chaos, because it's interesting that came up, because that was the picture I had yesterday of the Lord leading us to this place. We're all there. We all see it. We all experience this earthquake. And so there is no, I didn't know there was an issue. I didn't know there was It's like the Lord is bringing it front and center. And 2020 really exposed that. And I think in our minds, many of us had a different picture of what the time is now was going to look like, and what the culmination leading up to 2020 was. I think I'll speak for myself. It was like a lot of anticipation, but it was like more of a exposure of what's underground. So yeah, as hard as it is to know that there's scattering or division, and being tempted to second guess God's leading, I was like, no, this one's clear to me. It's an exposure of what's underground in the foundation. And before we can get to building that beautiful city that we all desire to have, the unity and the reconciliation, we have to deal with the repair and the junk that's under the foundation and under the earth, because it's crying out.
You said something earlier that really, it was just a quick conversation, but really struck me as to why there's scattering, as to why there's kind of this running out. And I don't want to, I feel like I would do it an injustice of trying to recreate it, but it was a very, I feel like a very important point to share. Yeah.
You're good. That's good. I forgot about that, but it is important. I do not believe that if we were saying anything that was baseless or untrue or just completely out of left field, that there would be a scattering, that there would be chaos. Because if it was, people just could go on with life as if, okay, what? there's nothing there. It's effectively ineffective. Mm-hmm. But because there's this reverberation,
confusion, scattering effect,
at some point we have to say, there's something to what they're saying, because otherwise, why would the body crumble or scatter or be as chaotic as it is? And it's easy for us to label that in the natural of like, it's so much chaos, they're causing so many problems. But God, He makes beautiful things out of what we think is absolute chaos and mess. So yeah.
I think what I would add to that, if it wasn't, if specifically, right, because we're talking about our video and our post specifically about racism, and racism at Antioch Community Church, and kind of the racist ideas or mindsets within leadership. So us speaking out, us putting a video, us putting a post out, if it didn't have any teeth to it, if it didn't have any substance or relevance, if Antioch wasn't really missing the mark with systemic racism and addressing it correctly, if they were doing that, then what we're saying would not have an effect. Mm-hmm. It would not matter, because that piece of your body would be solid. It wouldn't cause any effect, because you would know that what we're doing is adequate. So for me, it makes a lot of sense if this is the theme that's coming up, because you're not addressing it.
Yeah.
Correctly.
And I think another thing that just came to mind when you're sharing is that what makes this so hard is that when you feel like you've done an adequate job and then someone tells you you're not, it can be very demoralizing, especially if you feel like you've been trying.
Right.
But when you're missing the mark, you're missing the mark. And it's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you feel like you're trying.
I think that's the sad part, right? I think the sad part is, yes, Antioch has done a lot more than other places. Mm-hmm. I will give Antioch that, right? Addressing systemic, like having a sermon, but I think the thing is listening to the voices that have said that there's an issue opposed to listening to the I'm specifically talking about the black voices or the voices of color. You know, you say you do climate surveys or what, and you take those surveys of the people that are still inside of the church, and you use that to say, oh, we're doing a good job when it comes to black people, people of color, and there's no issue. I think we're actually doing a good job. I think that's faulty. Actually listen to the voices that are trying to tell you what to change, how to change, give input or taking input, taking suggestions, feedback from the people that are inside the house and telling you that there's an issue and that hasn't been done. Not only did we experience that, because we've expressed our grievances and we expressed how to get better and we challenged Antioch how to get better. But if it seems like it falls on deaf ears because we've talked to people that have been there 5 years and 10 years and 15 years and 20 years who've said the same thing that we've said. So, yeah. It's hard to swallow a pill that when you believe that you're doing the right thing and it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I did have something else, but
you lost
it escaped me.
It escaped you? Oh, I'm sorry.
I know, lost my train too. Okay, so one other thing I was going to say, just in regards to Antioch having done a lot more than many other places have done, you know, and I think that's one of the things that even drew us to Antioch 4 years ago was that they were actually doing something, you know, and most predominantly white churches weren't doing anything. I know I wasn't raised in a church that was doing anything. And so that was like, oh, wow, right. Okay, yeah. You're doing something. Like, I've never seen this actually.
Culture of Heaven, that was a series. that
Diversity. It was called Diversity, Culture of Heaven.
Okay. Yeah, March 2017.
Yeah. And so that was like, oh, wow, this is like super refreshing.
Interesting. That came off of.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And so, but I think since one thing that we've learned or understood even about Antioch and the culture is that when there's something happening to people, you know, in the nation, mainly in the world, that we need to address as a church body, it happens aggressively and swiftly. Like, that is the culture of Antioch. It's like, oh my goodness, there's a problem in the Middle East, we're sending a team. There's a problem, you know, in Mexico, we're sending a team. Like, and it's like swift, it's aggressive, it's intentional, calculated,
the money's there,
resources, yep. Boom. And so I think that is also part of the struggle and pain of people of color within our nation right now, is like,
not just Antioch, right?
Yeah,
nationwide.
There is an exposure, yep. Again, of a major problem. There's exposure. The problem's been there a long time, but it's now exposed. So now we all know it's there. We're as people of color are no longer convincing that it's there. Everyone knows it's there. And so what is the aggressive and swift, decisive, you know, intentional, calculated, resource-driven attack on this issue? And so that is where I believe Antioch's being held accountable, because we say, you know, as a body at Antioch, like, we are about reaching the world and we want to show Jesus, show the world Jesus. Like, this is who we are. We care well, we love well. This is who we are. And I believe that this is okay, if this is who you say that you are, then we need to be about it. And that's why there's an exposure of the faulty foundation or cracks when it comes to what's underneath the ground, when it comes to repair and race relations. It's almost like you're being held to a higher standard because you've said, this is who I am.
Yes.
And that even goes to the bigger picture of the problem in our country, because we say we are the land of the free, the home of the brave. Every man is created in my image, in God's image.
All men are created equal.
All men are created equal. That's who we say we are. So that's why there's this embarrassing exposure of the treatment of a group of people in our nation, because okay, y'all have bragged about being this is who you are. Well, there's a reckoning that has to happen if you're not going to be who you say that you are. So that is a big part of the reason why it's like, dang, why are you coming for us like this? Like, and I'm talking about Antioch.
Yeah.
Why are you coming for us like this? Because we've said ourselves, this is who we are. So if this is who we are, we got to be about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Or don't say it. Don't say you're about it. Don't say you're a diverse and inclusive church. This goes beyond Antioch. This touches on Baylor. This touches on a lot of majority white spaces.
Which is why there's a crying out.
That say, like, don't do yourselves a favor. Do black people and other marginalized groups a favor. And don't use these buzzwords if you're actually not going to live it out. Don't do it. Just be honest.
Like, we're just not there right now.
We're not doing it. It doesn't matter. And that's a crazy concept, but I'd much rather know that you're not about it. Because cool, I know where you stand, opposed to this psychologically confusing system structure that says they're diverse and inclusive, but then when you actually get into the house and you start looking behind the walls and you start looking at the leadership and you start looking at the belief system of the leadership and what they believe is important, those two things are incongruent. What you say and what you do, they have to match.
And it's a hard concept too, to think that, you know, I'm sure people are feel like, oh my gosh, they think we're hypocrites, because I'm sure that no one in leadership wakes up and says, I'm gonna live one way and say another, because that's what's so deadly about racism, is it's blinding. White supremacy and just anti-blackness, like, those things are blinding because they've been so much a part of the thread of our culture, period, of this nation. And the foundation of this nation was Christian religion, and it's literally been so deeply embedded that when you start trying to talk about the incongruence, people get mad, and they
have strong opinions, and criticisms.
But
that's a whole nother video. White supremacy in the church.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother video. So
just because you don't see it
doesn't mean it's not
there.
So let's just leave it at that for this video, because we're about out of time. I hope people got to this point. If you have got to this point, we appreciate you. Keep tuning in. We're going to keep talking. That's it?
That's it.
All right. See y'all next time.